Prime Minister Mark Carney is making the most dramatic shift in Canadian trade and defense policy in a generation. This breaking move has sent shockwaves through Washington, Berlin, Seoul, and Brussels, and it changes the global balance. At the center of the story is a Canadian submarine deal worth tens of billions of dollars with Germany and South Korea. But behind that defense contract lies something even bigger, a game-changing realignment in trade, energy, and geopolitical power. For years, the United States assumed Canada would always remain a loyal junior partner, no matter the circumstances. But Donald Trump's tariffs on Canadian steel, aluminum, lumber, and even agricultural exports have forced Ottawa to rethink. Instead of strengthening American leverage, Trump's protectionism has weakened U.S. influence and pushed Canada into Europe's embrace. Carney has seized that opening with speed and precision, announcing defense deals, energy projects, and critical mineral partnerships abroad. The submarine program alone could be worth over $20 billion US, with contracts going to Hamburg or Busan, not Washington. Thyssenkrupp Marine Systems of Germany and Hanwha Ocean of South Korea are the two finalists, both offering high stakes. The German option is more expensive but technologically advanced. The South Koreans promise delivery before 2030, a decisive advantage. Each submarine is valued at around $2 billion, making this one of Canada's largest military procurements in modern history. But what makes headlines is not who is competing, but who is excluded. American contractors are nowhere to be seen. This absence is shocking. In past decades, U.S. shipyards would have been the automatic destination for such a massive contract. Instead, Carney is sending a blunt message. If Washington treats Canada like an adversary in trade, it loses in defense. Billions that once flowed into American industries are now moving into Europe and Asia, eroding U.S. industrial influence. This pivot is not symbolic. It's structural, and it comes at the precise moment Canada feels maximum economic pressure. Over the past year, tariffs on Canadian copper, softwood lumber, and metals have soared as high as 50%. Canadian exporters, farmers, and manufacturers are reeling. Yet Carney has chosen resilience over retreat, crafting a two-table strategy. The first table remains Washington. Carney has announced a partial removal of Canadian retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods under CUSMA. This is not surrender. It's a reset, a calculated move to reopen negotiations while preserving leverage on steel and autos. Today, more than 85% of Canadian exports to the United States still move tariff-free under CUSMA. That's vital. The effective U.S. tariff rate on Canadian goods is 5.6%, far below the 16% global average. That means even amid Trump's tariff storm, Canada holds the best trade access deal with the U.S. of any partner. Carney is signaling flexibility while protecting strength, a message designed for both Washington and domestic Canadian industries. The second table is Europe, where Carney is rapidly deepening ties in energy, trade, and security. In Germany, he signed a partnership on critical minerals, connecting Canada's 200 mining projects with Europe's industrial needs. These minerals are vital for defense production, clean energy, and advanced technologies. Europe sees Canada as a stable alternative to China. In Poland, Carney reaffirmed NATO commitments with one of the fastest-growing defense spenders in Europe, Warsaw. In Latvia, he underlined Canada's frontline role in NATO's deterrence mission against Russian aggression. Energy is also central. Carney has revived plans to export Canadian LNG to Europe through Churchill Port in Manitoba. For Europeans, this reduces dependence on Russian gas. For Canada, it opens new markets beyond the American stranglehold. This dual-track strategy is both defensive and offensive. It protects Canadian exporters while opening fresh opportunities overseas. The urgency is clear. China has already shut down Canadian canola exports with anti-dumping tariffs exceeding 75%. That closure cost Canadian farmers billions and reminded Ottawa how vulnerable reliance on a few markets can be. Carney is showing that Canada will not be cornered by Washington or Beijing. Alternatives are being built in Europe. But this is not just about trade. It's about geopolitics, sovereignty, and the balance of global influence. Trump's tariffs were supposed to project U.S. strength. Instead, they've created openings for Germany, South Korea, and Canada. Canada's choices now mean tens of billions in defense contracts flowing to Hamburg and Busan instead of Virginia or Connecticut. That weakens America's industrial base, limits U.S. influence, and strengthens Canada's independence. But there's another unexpected twist: coffee. Trump's latest tariffs hit Brazil with a shocking 50% duty on coffee exports to the United States. Brazil supplies 1/3 of America's coffee. In 2024, it shipped more than 8 million 60-kilogram bags to the U.S. Those beans once entered duty-free. Today, the tariffs double costs, sending prices soaring for U.S. consumers and businesses. A bag that cost $147 now lands closer to $360, with retail prices up 15 to 20%. The average American cup could rise by another 20 cents within months, hitting consumers where it hurts most. But Canada has kept its doors wide open. Brazilian coffee enters Canada with 0 tariffs. In the first half of 2025, Brazilian exports to Canada rose 25%, with coffee leading the surge. As the U.S. market becomes toxic, Brazil is diverting more beans to Canada. For Canada, that means stable supply, competitive prices, and stronger trade relations with the world's top coffee producer. For the U.S., it means shortages, inflation, and the risk of losing its position as Brazil's #1 buyer. This diversion may become permanent. Supply contracts and logistics chains are not easily reversed. America's coffee industry supports 2.2 million jobs and contributes over $340 billion annually. Even small disruptions carry enormous costs. Trump's tariffs, designed to look tough, risk creating a lasting Canadian advantage in one of America's most beloved industries. Coffee becomes a symbol of this broader realignment. Tariffs designed as leverage are actually weakening U.S. influence. Carney is proving that Canada can adapt, diversify, and seize opportunities where Washington stumbles. Families in Canada will see cheaper imported goods as retaliatory tariffs lift, lowering prices on food, beverages, and household items. At the same time, Canada holds onto its strongest card, preferential U.S. market access under CUSMA. This combination makes Canada both resilient and attractive to new partners in Europe and Asia. The stakes could not be higher. All eyes are now on whether Carney finalizes the submarine deal before year's end. If Canada signs with Germany or South Korea, it cements a permanent industrial shift away from the United States. The next 48 hours in Berlin could determine whether Hamburg or Busan wins the prize of Canada's largest ever defense contract. Either way, Washington loses. The lesson is stark. Tariffs meant to punish have instead empowered Canada to emerge stronger, more independent, and more global. Trump may control tariffs with the stroke of a pen, but Carney is writing a longer game of strategy. In this two-level contest, Canada is not retreating. It is advancing with confidence, and the world is watching closely. So what happens next? Expect new announcements on energy exports, critical minerals, and military procurement in the coming months. Each move will further solidify Canada's independence and weaken U.S. leverage built on outdated assumptions. This is a turning point not just for Ottawa, but for Washington, Berlin, Seoul, and every nation trading with Canada. And it all began with tariffs that backfired. If you found this breakdown valuable, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts below. Stay tuned for more exclusive updates as this unprecedented trade and defense realignment unfolds in real time.